Hello tanks and tankettes, do not adjust your sets, this is in fact me playing World of Tanks. A recent game as well, in fact very recent, this is from a day and a half ago. Because if you follow me on Twitter, you may have noticed that yeah, I had a slight bout of insomnia, and so what I did was I gave up trying to get to sleep, got up and played World of Tanks for a bit. Which obviously is a nice relaxing therapeutic thing to do, right? Yeah, I don't exactly know why I picked World of Tanks. I just felt like doing it, so I did. Now, as a session overall, and I played for like an hour and 3/4, something around that, it was a bit of a rough experience. I think I was top tier twice in the entire time. Most of the games had artillery. In fact, most of the games had the maximum number of artillery, even at that time of the morning. And there were a couple of games in particular where artillery ended up being quite annoying. There was one particular round I had in the Dickermax where I not only got the Paris map, but there was a Lefebvre artillery on the enemy team. In fact, there's a Lefebvre artillery on the enemy team in this one as well. And of course, if you know anything about World of Tanks, you'll know that that one's pretty dirty. And it's even more dirty that Wargaming keep putting it on sale, but anyway. So overall, yes, I had some moments of fun, but the entire session was not relaxing. It really wasn't. But I was in a mood where I didn't really care. I was tired, I was a bit zoned out, and so don't really expect great gameplay from me. But this isn't really going to be about me, as you will see. So initially I thought I'd come to this spot, and then the heavies moved up, and then I thought, okay, I'll join them. I've got good gun depression, I've got excellent penetration, but they got fairly well wrecked before they even really got into position. So I immediately turned around and came back here, because this position at least gives me some options to work with, whereas if I'd gone forwards, I pretty much would have been stuck and in a position where I'd have just been overwhelmed. It's not entirely clear what was spotting there, or in fact where the Jackson is that killed that SU-100, but chances are they're not sniping all the way across from the other side. So it's not just these couple of tanks here that have already been spotted. There are clearly more tanks behind these couple of pushing vehicles on our cap. So this is a bit of a sticky situation, because I can peek out and fire, and these guys are having to cross the open, and so they're not really able to sit and aim at me without making themselves a stationary target. Oh, and it helps if you're firing HE from the 57mm or whatever gun that was on the Type. Yeah, but still, there are just enough of them that, yeah, even though I've done some damage, even though I've gotten a kill, that T-34-85 has been able to advance. We do at least know that the IS doesn't have the big gun, but that 100mm, I mean, it's a bit of a mixed, you know, it's okay, it's not going to hit me as hard, and I do have a pretty good chunk of health in this particular vehicle, but they have more reliable gun handling, and they have a faster reload. So it's one of these swings and roundabouts situations. If I can kill the ELC though, that would be useful, maybe do a little more damage to the IS if he's there, but the IS seems to have backed off maybe. The T-34-85 is my primary concern. They've got more health than me at this stage, and they can hit that bit harder. Now it's around now that my spidey senses started tingling, and I thought there's probably someone coming up behind me. The rest of the map seems to be going okay, with a bunch of people that are pushing aggressively around on the enemy cap. Indeed, we are actually capping the enemy cap. So, okay, I just have to basically keep them off our cap for a little bit longer. So that's when the Jackson appears, and I do get some damage into them. We do still have some artillery left alive, but I'm not going to withstand another hit. And as it turns out, my intuition that somebody was going to come up round behind me was in fact correct, but it was instead the IS. And that's where I get slightly balked by RNG. If it had been a little bit higher, that would have been the kill, but somebody does still kill that IS. In fact, that's the IS-2, our IS-2. who's been sat in that position for a while. But, you know, they're still decently healthy. We've still got our top tier tank. The enemy tanks are a bit beat up at this stage. So, yeah, okay. We should still have a chance, right? Except now everybody's dying. For some reason, the T-34 abandoned the cap when they didn't have to. And the IS has disconnected. So it's now a low health LTG and a VK3001H who is going to prove to be a little bit stock. This VK basically cannot touch the OIs. Even if they're firing HE shells, I don't think they're really going to do anything. The T-3485 they might have a chance against, but of course both OIs are able to do significant damage, and the tier 6 OI can just one-shot the VK if he's using the derp gun, which, spoiler alert, he is. So he had absolutely no chance, didn't have the mobility, didn't have the armor, didn't have the hit points. He's out of the equation. That just leaves the LTG, who has killed the T-3485. So that's good news. The bad news is he's still got 2 heavy tanks to tackle, and this IS-2 shows absolutely no chance, no sign of coming back into the game. So this is a bit of a sticky situation. This is why I picked out this particular replay. It wasn't just the novelty of me playing, it was that it actually turned out to have a somewhat exciting ending. So the LTG with his HE there, which is not a bad choice when dealing with a frontal armour. You might be able to tell that at this point I was fully expecting we'd lose and that I'd actually tabbed out for a second to check like Twitter or something. And it's around about the stage where I noticed the OI exploding in the background on my screen that I thought, okay, no, maybe there's something interesting happening after all. So that's one of them out the way. But there's still that other heavy to deal with, the OI experimental. And regardless of which gun he's using, if he hits the LTG is kinda screwed. The good news is, though, that the experimental is, of course, rather less well armoured than the OI, so the LTG has a much better chance of penning with AP shells. The bad news is, he's going to need multiple hits to do it. The OI experimental also shows absolutely no sign of doing anything other than just sitting there. But to be fair, if he was to try and go chasing around this rock against an extremely mobile light tank, he would be at an extreme disadvantage. There is of course also the tier gap, but considering the circumstances, that matters a bit less. So the LTG disengages and gets unspotted, and at this point he's just going to whiz in, use his superior mobility, hope that he can beat the reaction time of the experimental, which he does, and there we go, it's all over. So the LTG could have just given up, considering the circumstances, considering the AFK tank, but no, they kept trying, and in the end they were able to bring that home to be a victory. I didn't do too awfully myself either. I got high caliber medal and the most damage on the team, as well as sufficiently delaying those tanks getting to our own cap. But really it was that LTG player that was the hero of this story, with just that last couple of kills making it a win when, by all rights, thanks to that IS-2 being AFK, it ought to have been a close loss. So, if you're watching this, Mr. LTG player, whose name I can't even begin to attempt to pronounce, give yourself a pat on the back. Well done. That was a very well played match. So hopefully the rest of you have enjoyed this replay, this somewhat novel sight of me playing World of Tanks. If you have, you can do all the usual things down below under the video, and as always, stay tuned for more.